Good afternoon. It's 1:45 p.m. on Wednesday, and I'm going to try something a little different today. I'm recording this on a very old 10-year-old laptop. It's an iMac MacBook, and this program is called Photo Booth, and I'm using the record button. So let's see how this works. I'd like to read something, and then I'll post it. I bought this book. It's The Constitution of the United States of America and Other Writings of the Founding Fathers. And I'm going to read chapter 1 is The Rights of the Colonists, written by Samuel Adams on November 20th, 1772. And you notice I have broken glasses. Okay, so the natural rights of the colonists as men. Among the natural rights of the colonists are these: first, a right to life, and secondly, to liberty, thirdly, to property, together with the right to support and defend them in the best manner they can. These are evident branches of, rather than deductions from, the duty of self-preservation, commonly called the first law of nature. All men have a right to remain in a state of nature as long as they please, and in case of intolerable oppression, civil or religious, to leave the society they belong to and enter into another. When men enter into society, it is by voluntary consent, and they have a right to demand and insist upon the performance of such conditions and previous limitations as form an equitable original compact. Every natural right not expressly given up or from the nature of a social compact necessarily ceded remains. All positive and civil laws should conform as far as possible to the law of natural reason and equity. As neither reason requires nor religion permits the contrary, every man living in or out of a state of civil society has a right peaceably and quietly to worship God according to the dictates of his conscience. Just and true liberty, equal and impartial liberty, in matters spiritual and temporal, is a thing that all men are clearly entitled to by the eternal and immutable laws of God and nature, as well as by the law of nations and all well-grounded municipal laws, which must have their foundations in the former. Let's, just an aside here, mask laws, mask mandates, not lawful. Just saying. Returning to the reading now. In regard to religion, mutual toleration in the different professions thereof is what all good and candid minds in all ages have ever practiced, and, both by precept and example, inculcated on mankind. And it is now generally agreed among Christians that this part of toleration in the fullest extent, consisted with the being of civil society, is the chief characteristical mark of the Church, insomuch that Mr. Locke has asserted and proved beyond the possibility of contradiction on any solid ground that such toleration ought to be extended to all whose doctrines are not subversive of society. The only sects which he thinks ought to be, and which by all wise laws are excluded from such toleration, are those who teach doctrines subversive of the civil government under which they live. The Roman Catholics or Papists are excluded by reason of such doctrines as these, that princes excommunicated may be deposed, and those that they call heretics may be destroyed without mercy. Besides their recognizing the Pope in so absolute a manner in subversion of government, by introducing as far as possible into the states under whose protection they enjoy life, liberty, and property, that solipsism in politics, imperium and imperios, leading directly to the worst anarchy and confusion, civil discord, war, and bloodshed. Yeah. You know, I was born and raised a Roman Catholic, but I agree with that. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to talk about a theory I have which is that every society, secret or otherwise, has been or attempted to been infiltrated by subversion, subversive, dark, the antithesis of light forces. All right, if you want to call them secret societies, if you want to call them the deep state, if you want to call them the deep church, if you want to call them the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the WEF, whatever you want to call them, they have they are. I think most freedom loving and enlightened movements throughout history, if not all of them, have been infiltrated by dark forces. And I think I think a really good example that opened my eyes to this is when you realize that there are three cities within nation countries. There are three cities within three different nation countries that are not subject to the laws of those countries. Number one is Washington, D.C. is not, they have their own laws. They have their own police force. They have their own army. They have their own way of doing things. Number two is the Vatican. I'm going to tell you, I was raised a Roman Catholic. I mean, I rebelled in my teenage years when I started to go down this road. And that led me to rebel against religion, period, and organized religion. So I'm coming back now to a creation. I believe in a creator. I'm not a agnostic or an atheist, but I do believe in a creator. But when something that starts out as good, I mean, I love what he calls them, papists. I've heard that before. These papists, especially in the Vatican, have twisted the words of Jesus. Like I said years ago to my mother, I said, what is all this? We go to church, and it's a whole ritual. It's a whole ritual with a statue of a man who you believe was the Son of God. He was ritually murdered on that cross. He was ritually murdered, and we're celebrating this. And I remember I had a quiz in religion class. You had to name the 7 wounds, the 7 deadly wounds that Jesus Christ received and led to his death. I'm like, why are we celebrating his death? We know he was ritually murdered. Why? I believe personally that his words are more important. And if you take all his stories, all his parables, basically said 2 basic things. Love God and love one another. What's wrong with that? Why do I have to go to a priest? I mean, there's a lot of bad priests. There's a lot of bad nuns. There's a lot of bad rabbis. There's a lot of bad mullahs, whatever they call the holy men in Islam. There's a lot of bad ministers, but there's also a lot of good. But they're still human. I don't need them to forgive my sins, okay? I just need God, and if I believe that Jesus was the incarnation, the physical incarnation of the Creator on this planet, plane, realm, then that's between me and Jesus, right? And I had a born-again Christian friend say to me years ago, she said, because when I went through my pagan phase, talk about in my search for that, I found that, a lot of ancient people believed God was a female, right? And she said, well, my friend said to me, she said, well, you can incorporate that into your belief system because I've always believed, this is her speaking now, she said, I've always believed the Holy Spirit was female. And I love that. So these are my choices, but I believe that, and the third city, let's get back to what I was saying. The third city is the city of London. Okay, so the city of London is not subject to the rules of the rest of the United Kingdom. The City of London is its own jurisdiction, same as the Vatican, same as Washington, D.C. And if I had a map here, I would show you they those three cities create kind of a triangle, okay? And personally, my interpretation of world events, because they keep a lot of it secret, but they do like to, the revelation of the method to these secret societies is, hidden in plain sight, right? And they'll call somebody, they really love it if somebody like me, who is a crazy person, gets it and discovers what they're hiding, and I broadcast it. They're laughing because nobody's believing me. So they're like, yeah, that crazy girl, knows what we're doing, but nobody believes her. But anyway, my personal interpretation of world events and how these three autonomous cities within nation states operate together is the Washington, D.C. is the center of the military-industrial complex, war. Okay, what does the United States do with our military for 100 years at least? Is imperialistic colonization, right? They took that over from Britain. Okay, Britain was the tiny little country with no resources, but they had an immense navy, right? So they gave that up to the colonies, right? Because we had a revolution and we won, right? So the United States became the military industrial complex of the globalist deep state, the secret society, okay? London became, when they, and I think they were when they were the world colonizers too, but they were, I'm not gonna say because someone will call me a anti-Semite, but they were controlled by a famous British banking family that will, and they're still there. We won't mention their name, but anyway, London is the seat of money, financial. That is where that famous banking family controls the gold prices. They have a 51% interest in, or 52% interest in the gold price. And the Vatican is the site of indoctrination, of curriculum to teach the masses, and this is something I realized years ago, and it's really disgusting that they rule us. But I don't think these places started out like that, okay? I think there has been because they were infiltrated by, you can call them Freemasons. I don't even think, like, all the founding fathers were Freemasons, but I don't think Freemasonry started out as bad. I think it started out as something that was enlightenment, but sometimes enlightenment becomes subverted. The light can be subverted. That's all I got to say for now. I'll read another time. Let's see if this works, that I can upload it. Okay, bye-bye.